Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Long Beach, the longest serving major street race in North America, starting all the way back in 1975. We're here for some GT racing action in the Cross Touring Cup. It is Season 2, Round 3. I am Tom Dillon. Alongside me this evening, Sebastian Boscher-Williams. And Sebastian, with a championship that is in still its early stages with some championship battles emerging. What are you expecting from tonight's race?
I think absolute excitement and drama. I mean, Long Beach is such an amazing circuit. We don't tend to see it too much if you're a European GT3 viewer, but I mean, it's got so much to offer. It's got this long straight, good overtaking zones, and really technical sections. It's going to be a real test for our drivers, and if anybody can be successful around here, it really sets them up very well for the championship standings. Robert Schwenkler, your GT4 championship leader at the moment. We head into qualifying. Different format to normal. We've only got one lap, Tom, due to a few technical issues. So this is all about getting out there, getting up to speed as quickly as possible. It's about who is the master of cold tyres. It's going to be so interesting.
And it's actually a very, very unique situation that we've got going on here with the server having to be restarted and us going into a one-lap qualifying. It's going to be like in the Formula One games, you do a 5-lap lobby and you've got 1 minute to get a lap in. But that being said, we have just gone to the race session, so I have a slight feeling that we're actually going to get started straight away here. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I think we're having a few issues. So, we have some cars out on the track at the moment. Having a look at the GT3, the 6 GT3 Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo, new to iRacing this season. Very popular if you were driving in the Spa 24 hours less over the weekend. I was going to say it's about less than 24 hours ago that race ended. One of the most popular cars, everybody highly practiced in the Mercedes GT3 Evo. And down to the braking zone of turn 9. Tom, you know, we've seen, I don't know if you've been around for any official races here at Long Beach, but we always seem to get accidents at turn 9 and turn 11 at the hairpin. Do you think that we're going to see that today, or do you think the caliber of drivers are just going to sort of make it a little bit harder for them to make those mistakes? Do you think we might see less mistakes than a standard open lobby?
Well, we've got a very, very good lineup of drivers on the grid today, anywhere from 1,000, 5,000 iRating. So they know their way around this sim very, very well indeed. And there's actually one thing that I was reading this morning about Long Beach that I didn't know. The track is actually slightly crested because it's a street and it's to help with drainage. It's not completely flat. And it's something that if you have driven Long Beach, you'll notice that the car can often be quite unpredictable heading into corners. It's because the racing surface is actually ever so slightly crested. It's almost like a little triangle to help with the drainage. So it causes a little bit of a headache for the drivers, and it makes it just that more challenging to drive.
Really fascinating. In fact, certainly felt it when I've driven laps around here, but yeah, never really noticed it enough. And that's the disadvantage of sim racing here. All of these sort of real life drivers, where they'll go to the track, they'll walk around the track, they'll sort of get really low down to the surface and see the different cambers and characteristics of the circuit. You can't really do that in iRacing or any simulator, so really fascinating fact there. This is Bergstrom coming around the final corner. And unlike our normal qualifying sessions, this is it. This is qualifying done. One lap wonder, one lap sprint. Thompson's got the time stands. That's your first lap, an 18.3. Not sure if that's going to be competitive. Bergstrom smashes that, goes 5/10 quicker. Thompson to the top of the standings in GT4, up at 24.8. Neville not found the pace that he would have been expecting. 3 seconds down there from the pole sitter in GT4. And it's just, I don't think I've ever seen a qualifying session like this, Tom, before in iRacing, you know, where you've got to do it on lap 1. You've got to be the real master of cold tyres. These drivers wouldn't have practiced on cold tyres because there's no reason to. So it's really driving blind.
There's certainly a little bit of pressure, isn't there, on them? And, well, currently, we've not seen a major incident, so people dealing with it quite nicely, though it's so difficult when you've got such an important qualifying session, particularly if you've been practicing all week and you've got a great deal of pace. You're going to be feeling particularly quite good about yourself, and then you've got one lap to put it all on the table. A week's worth of work can essentially be immediately put onto the back foot. It can be quite a high pressure situation for the drivers.
Certainly, they're really going to be struggling out there. You see drivers actually taking more than one lap. That's not going to affect their times at all. Their qualifying is done as soon as they've completed one lap. Their times will count no more, but they need to get the practice in as well. Andrea heads up into third place. We have an all Mercedes front row. In fact, the front two rows are full of Mercedes. Winter is your first non-Mercedes, I should say, in the Porsche GT3. We have a Ferrari out there. That's a spin through turn 5, and hopefully for Robbie Shin, that was not on his flying lap. Otherwise, you'll be starting from the bottom of the field. I really like this format. I think they should do it more often, one lap qualifying. Just go out there, real risk versus reward, especially at the street track. And like that Porsche 5th place, Eric Whitner, has a little bit of damage to the front left of that car. If he's picked that up on his flying lap, that would be a 0x, and that would, his lap would not count. So really up against it is the Porsche driver.
Really up against it at this stage in the session. And of course, the driver is going to be almost essentially straight away focusing their attention on to that race and the start, because as we said, not a lot of time to focus on qualifying, so you've essentially got to switch your brain in and out of qualifying mode rather quickly.
Yeah, it's such a different discipline, especially in the GT3 cars. Your first lap, so your qualifying lap is all about optimal pace, but in race street, you really have to be careful of the tyres. You can't go out and attack 100% on your race stint. You'll just kill the tyres, and we've got a 45-minute sprint race here today. You'll end up killing the tyres at the stint, and you'll be nowhere. So you really have to bed those tyres in. That's a Porsche again hitting the wall. That time on the entrance to turn 6, and then on the exit of turn 7. I do believe that will be Eric's qualifying done and dusted. There's another Aston Martin heading into the wall. But it's so different, and it's such a skill for these drivers to be able to switch their qualifying modes and their race modes. And some drivers will naturally be quicker in qualifying, and some are just their driving style suits races a lot more. So it's not the end of the world if you don't qualify well. Maybe a little bit more around here. It's not super easy to overtake. You might be looking out for more incidents than necessarily any form of of ability to overtake by yourself, but you still can make the move, so it doesn't matter too much if you don't get your qualifying lap in. But having said that, Bergstrom in a great position at the moment, leading the timing stands.
In a really nice position actually at the moment. But yes, I think that point can't be overstated. The fact that some drivers just naturally tend towards the race pace, qualifying pace, and it really can be a skill, particularly if you say come from a traditional GT3 racing where you've got longer stints, whether you did the 24 hours of Spa this weekend, and all of a sudden you've got to readjust to being able to drive the car in a qualifying format. And of course, a lot of this is the fact that the cars are not really designed to be sprinting, but when you're in a sprint race, sometimes you have to be going so quickly as well, and towards the end of that stint to chase down someone or something. It's very interesting.
It certainly is. Sorry, I didn't quite catch your question there, Tom. Having to sort out a few issues on my side. I've seen a lot of drivers at the moment sort of make contact with the walls. Do we think this race is going to become a little bit of a damage race? Who can keep the car the cleanest and keep their maximum straight line speed out there?
Oh, it's always one of those attritional races around a street circuit. And I'm not going to say the famous quotes from Jolyon Palmer, but as we said, oh dear, there was a spinner, but I appreciate I'm a little bit behind at the moment, just sorting out a couple of issues. So I shouldn't have reacted to that really. But yes, street circuits always so tricky, and well, we're seeing that reflected in the walls being tapped and things like that. Here are the championship standings for GT3. At the moment, it's a little bit dominant. Eduardo Pecorini, 70 points in the number 47. He's won quite emphatically the first two of the races. Josh Clogg is in second position with Bobby Ross in third. Then it's Chassis, Jay Cam, Matthew Plaisance, Alec Bergstrom, Frank Apper, Jaden Darlin, Robbie Shin, Braden Melling, Wesley Jeanette, Eric Whitner, Patrick Cobb, Kerry Cantera, Darian Lizano, Ryan Ovilla, and Clayton Hack. They're the last three not actually scoring points as of yet. And just as I've managed to get all of my issues sorted, I'll let you get in, Sebastian.
Robert Schwenkler is your GT4 Championship leader. Grant Turner in second place. James Keir third, with Adam Thompson in fourth. Glenn McTavish fifth. Rob Neville sixth. Kevin Irwin seventh. Same points exactly as Michael Dolling. There, joint seventh. In ninth place, we have Paul Mikolatsev. I am so sorry for the pronunciation of you. Milatskevs, thank you very much. 01 car, 16 points to his name. Jerry Di Piero is in 10th. As the top 10 of your GT4 standings. Tyler Coates, the only other driver to get off the 0-point mark. He's in 11th, 12 points to his name. Interesting. This is going to be a real turn-up for the championship here. Anybody who's qualified well, Adam Thompson's done very well in the GT4 class. He's going to be looking at gaining some mega points in the championship today. Really could affect a lot of people out there at the moment. It's going to be so interesting, this race. One to definitely stick around and watch till the very end. 01 car at the moment is still out on track. So still drivers still out there trying to improve on their lap times, or at least not their laps, I should say. Michael Dolling and Paul, the 01 car out there. And McLaren, Mikolatschek. I will get better at the pronunciation as we go along. It's slightly too late in the evening to be pronouncing names completely precisely. It's so
difficult. Late it's early, actually.
So late it's early.
Somehow they've managed to find two UK broadcasters to do this. But anyway, as we see Mikolatschik come through, and I appreciate I've butchered that name as well, despite just hearing it 3 times. But heading through at turn 10 and 11, just nicely dipping the car in, get it turned around, and then stamp on the throttle. Traction control in these cars allows you a little bit of time. You don't have to be so delicate on that throttle. He's obviously going to back off as he goes second position in his one and only qualifying lap in the McLaren.
5/10 though of Adam Thompson's. Decent showing from him, but Thompson really dominating the GT4 field at the moment. What can Michael Dolling do? The 78 Porsche through turns 9 he goes, avoids that tyre on the exit. So easy to make contact with that. We've seen many an IndyCar driver end up in that wall. As I guess that we might see a few of our drivers in the wall. He takes less apex curb through that right-hander. A little bit interesting. Maybe the McLaren able to ride the curbs a little bit better than the Porsche. Has a nice tight line through the final hairpin. As you they've got the traction control, don't really have to worry about being super smooth with your throttle application. Run to the line. Where does Michael Dolling go? As he crosses the line, and nothing coming up on our screen, so I think he must have had an off track somewhere through that lap. And if so, that's going to mean he's start last in class. He will not be able to do another lap. So Dolling has either picked up a 1x, or what I suspect is he's made a little bit of contact with the wall somewhere along the lap. That's invalidated his lap time, and that's really set him up for a pretty difficult race.
And that's another thing that we have to factor in here, is the fact that because of the walls offering those incident points, that it might be a little bit easier for these drivers to pick up the drive-through penalties and things like that, purely because hitting walls here is quite easy, and GT cars are fairly robust, despite the fact you've got quite high damage settings on here. They're still fairly robust cars, so it can be quite easy to sort of run them over the limit and tap a wall or something. And if that is going to be giving you incident points, those can rack up fairly quickly.
They really can, and, add a little bit of car contact into there that you tend to get, especially when the GT3s will start to lap the GT4s. It's going to be really easy to run into that limit, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see a few drivers having to come into the pits, having to serve those penalties. And it's such a long pit lane at Long Beach, kind of in the name. It's going to be a huge penalty for the drivers. And you also, it's kind of dangerous. It's quite a sharp pit entry, quite a sharp pit exit as well. So lots of danger involved in having to take those penalties. So it's got to be avoided at all costs. Do you believe we have everybody who wants to do a qualifying lap has done one? Only driver that hasn't been out is Robbie Shin. He's only done 0.06 of a lap. So Shin deciding not to qualify. Pecorini, I should say, Eduardo, our championship leader in GT3, his lap time was also invalidated. So he is going to start from the back of the GT3 class. So Eduardo really on the back foot. He starts 11th on the grid. And Tom, that's got to be disastrous for him.
That is huge, given how dominant he's been. Here is the standings in qualifying. Alec Bergstrom takes, was he surprised? A pretty surprised pole position, actually, Alec Bergstrom. He hasn't really been up front running from what I can remember so far this season. So a big performance from him with Josh Clogg in second position, and he's second position in the championship as well. So looking for some decent points on Eduardo. Gary Contera is in third position for SOG Racing Team, a second off of the pace. Then Eric Whitner is... Chad Seep is fourth. Eric Whitner is fifth. And then Eduardo Pecorini is sixth. Finally got there. He didn't set a time. Neither did Jake Cam, Robbie Shin or Jaden Darling. Of course, the special one-shot qualifying session that we had this evening. As for the GT4 class, Adam Thompson, racing for Slow Motion Broadcasting, is in first position. 124.8. Then it is Paul Mikulášik in for Glenn's Hot Wings, with James Keir in third position. Grant Turner is in fourth with Rob Neville in fifth. Michael Dolling in sixth with Kevin Irwin in seventh. Jimmy Howat starts eighth and last out of California in the number 37. The drivers are all in right now, reading up rather quickly, and we're just waiting for the safety car to get us underway for a formation lap here in Long Beach, as we mentioned. The longest running major street race in North America, starting in 1975 or 1976, depending on your preferred source. Wikipedia and iRacing having a difference in opinion on that one. Is 11 turns and 3.167 kilometers, so not the longest lap in the world, and that's of course reflected in the lap times.
It is. What I've just noticed is Pecorino not only is starting at the back of the GT3 class, he's excuse me, he's got even GT4s in between him and the back of the GT3 field, so it's extra worse for our championship leader. He's got to get past effectively lapped traffic before he can even think about racing his own class. Bergstrom here going to lead the field round now. As you said, mentioned a really short lap here, no formation lap, so we're going to be going live as we exit the hairpin. What is Bergstrom going to do? Is he going to go early? Is he going to go late? It's all up to him. He can decide when he's going to go.
And he's going to have control of the field as they go into 2x2 formation here for the start of round 3 of the XTC season. Can Eduardo Pecorini's absolute dominance be put on a little bit of a halt here in this race? There he is, starting in 6th position. Green is the call from the spotter, and we're away here for round 3 of the season. Bergstrom gets a pretty good start and immediately is into the lead of the race and soaring by 1/10 of a second. Really trying to make up positions early in the BMW, and there's a challenge around the outside from Josh Clogg, trying to make a move in the number 199. It's not quite going to be though, and he's going to have to stay behind Bergstrom, who leads the race in the Mercedes. Mercedes all the way from first to fourth here, with Cantera being the last of the Mercedes, Seep in third position. And at the moment, it looks pretty line of stern, and Eduardo Pecorini not having too many fireworks at the moment as the championship leader.
No, perfect start. I think I misspoke. Everybody sorts themselves now before the start. So Pecorino is on the back of the GT3 field. Superb start from Bergstrom though. Clogg 4/10 behind. Could be challenging into turn 9 if he's feeling a little bit brave. But yeah, Mercedes domination at the moment. It's Ham in 5th, our first non-Mercedes car. Is that a Porsche in the background with a little bit of damage or taking an interesting line on the back straight into turn 9? That's Whitner really not up to pace at the moment, already 5 seconds off the race lead through the hairpin for the first time. Everybody making their way through fairly cautiously. And we have 2 packs at the front, Bergstrom, Clog, Siep and Cantera.
What happened to Pecorini early on is he's already behind some of the GT4 field, and here is we have actually got a replay of this. I can tell you what happened to Eduardo Pecorini, and it was here, and I still am confused why he was behind GT4 traffic in the first place, but here he goes down the inside into the hairpin, and he just gets it all wrong, I think. Well, that doesn't explain why he was so far down the order as it was.
So I think what has happened here, and I might be a little bit speculating with this, so in iRacing you have 2 different forms of forming the grid. You can either grid by class or grid by position. I think what's happened is everybody's gridded by position, so the quicker class haven't been gridded together. And then Alan Thompson, what he's tried to do is he's tried to let the GT3s go by, but I think what's happened is there's been a string of black flags, so Pecorino's had to sort of drop down the order again to clear those penalties, and Pecorino really not doing not where he needs to be, but there's a Porsche, Eric Whitner, involved in that gaggle as well. So maybe Whitner and Pecorini have come together at some point? I'm not quite sure, very strange.
So Kevin Irwin had his black flags cleared, I can see that in the chat log. So there was obviously some flags for him, as Cantera had a little bit of an issue further back. We are on board with the championship leader, who actually has Whitner just ahead of him, and Whitner's going to come into the pits, and I wonder if that's for regular service or whether he's got some damage and or a penalty. I haven't seen anything yet, but here is the BMW, a wonderful racing machine, going to get past the GT4 of course, and a little bit unlike Pecorini, that was actually moved from position. The GT4 stopped on the right hand side there.
I think trying to get out of the way of Pecorini. Good avoidance move. We saw the broadcast I did, driver stopping on the racing line to let other cars through, so definitely an improvement over that. Pecorini will be happy with that avoidance from the GT4. Pecorini now 6 seconds off Ham in the Ferrari. I wonder if Whitner had some damage. It looked like his car was sort of crabbing a little bit on the straight on lap 1, so has he found the wall? He's already left the pits and stopped for 41 seconds. Bergstrom, according to our timing screen, has had some form of issue. He's been in the wall, and has he grazed the wall on the exit of the hairpin? That's going to allow Clog to gain even more time. Clog looking absolutely rapid at this stage of the race.
And now, assuming that Pecorini, who is 20 seconds down on the lead, cannot get that gap back up, this is going to be a case for Josh Clog, who came pretty close to winning last 2 weeks ago in Imola. This is going to be a huge opportunity for him to take some make some rare ground on Pecorini, who is currently sitting well ahead in the championship to the tune of about 20 points or so. I think 22 points is the exact gap, but he's still got a Mercedes ahead of him in Bergstrom, and that's going to be no mean feat to pass there. And it's not the easiest overtaking track is Long Beach. It's of course a street circuit, so just like that I hear more crunching of metal against the walls, and I do think that that's just an audio mess up in my ears rather than anything too dramatic. But Clog really quite close to Bergstrom here, and really starting to pressure him a little bit. This could be a race that actually is going to be on uncharacteristically before the pit stops. Here we go then. He's a little bit too far back, you'd suspect, on this lap. The slipstream not too powerful in the GT3 category, so he's going to have to make this ground up, you'd assume, in the corners.
He can. The difficulty that Clog has got is that these GT3s, you mentioned the slipstream is not super powerful, but what is powerful is the dirty air that these cars generate. It's super pronounced in the iRacing simulator, so Clog is sort of driving into this invisible wall of lack of performance, really, is the only way I can describe it. So Clog is going to be burning out his tyres. He's going to be, struggling with understeer, oversteer on exit. Clog has got all the work to do. Ham and Shin I think have had some form of issue on that last lap. They are now both in the pits. A little bit early to be making a pit stop, I do believe. Ham now on the exit, but that's allowed Pecorini to get up. He's now into 5th place, and I think, Tom, we're going to see exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think this could be the reason why Jake Ham is into the pits, and no, certainly the reason that Jake Ham's into the pits. It was a Constantino effect. Pecorini almost involved. He wasn't involved. Oh, he's actually, that is looking like a pretty battered BMW. It just appeared that he'd avoided that for a second, but actually, I think there's a little bit of bodywork damage on the front of that BMW. And in fact, I can tell you that is not a new aerodynamic package from the BMW team and an update from iRacing. It was updated today, but that BMW wasn't. That is a careering into the wall from Edoardo Pecorini, who, despite looking absolutely unfallible throughout the season so far in the first 2 rounds, he suddenly is having a bit of a poor race.
He is. The dangers of starting lower down the order. Had that misunderstanding, I think, with the GT4s earlier on, now unleashed really, and then found a wall of Ferraris on the exit of turn 8. Nothing he could do. But that's going to be major damage for Edoardo Pecorini. That car is going to be so understeery, so difficult to get into the corners. Now, the drivers do have a fast repair. What do I mean by that? iRacing has a system where you can, it's basically a token, you can exchange it for a brand new car, and he can do that when he comes into the pits, but he's obviously trying to extend the fuel just enough so he can come to the pits without damaging his strategy too much. Eric Whitner in the wall again on the exit of turn 11, the final hairpin. Whitner not having the race that he would have liked. That Porsche in the wars undoubtedly. As a GT4 up ahead as well. He's going to get out of the way on the exit of turn 1. Everything looks fairly smooth on board now with Whitner, the 17 car, with the 333 Mercedes looming large in the mirrors. It's going to be so close to contact on the exit of turn 5. Everything looks good so far. Cantera really trying to hustle and hassle Whitner into making a mistake. Whitner does exactly that. He's forced wide. He's going to have to go defensive into turn 8. Cantera can just play this nice and slow, just get the exit, but hey, Cantera struggled on the entrance to turn 8. And Whitner, I think even after hitting the wall, is going to have the advantage heading into turn 9.
18 minutes we expect on a fuel tank here, as we see a little bit of GT4 traffic getting in the way already, being lapped, although at this stage in the race I can't tell if they're being lapped or if that's actually technically for position. But anyway, we move on. It's actually with their repairs, it could actually be a case of they're just catching, yes, they're catching up. So indeed 18 minutes the GT3s can do on a tank here with the reduced fuel tank in the rules. GT4's 20 minutes, so we're expecting perhaps a 2-stop race. They could maybe just about stretch to do the 1-stop. You never know what these high-skilled drivers are like. They sometimes seem to be able to make 1-stops out of absolutely nowhere. But that's the idea anyway, that he's going to be... Oh no, that's not an idea at all for Jake Ham, who is now out of this race. Here is a replay, and he's just got it all wrong here. And the attritional nature of this circuit has bit Jake Ham as he's just clipped the rear and it's sent the car around into the wall. And to be fair, the suspension was already probably rather damaged from that first tap. So Jake Ham out of the race, I'm almost certain. The car not being repaired in a month of Sundays there. He might try it though, to be fair to him.
Well, it depends if he's got his fast repair available to him. I think Jake Ham, though, entered the pits after that blockage that he was part of at turn 8. Ham did exactly the same thing at the end of qualifying, so easily done at Long Beach, especially as you mentioned, Tom, with these wide GT3 cars. They're not open wheel cars, they're a lot wider than you think, and it's a real pinch point on the circuit, but major mistake there from Jake Ham. Having a look at our GT4, haven't seen much of them so far, been fairly uneventful compared to their GT3 counterparts. Thompson leads by 7.6 seconds to James Keir. He's second and starting to catch a Ferrari up ahead. Keir just doing exactly what he needs to do at the moment, lap away, gain that consistency. McLaren looking one of the most undamaged cars I think I've seen on the track so far. We have that battle between Whitner and Cantera looming in the mirrors of the McLaren GT4. They get interesting fairly soon. But I noticed as well, Tom, on the rear wing of Cantera, he's got a damaged rear end plate. So I don't think we have many GT3s out there that have a clean car. But it looks like most of the GT4 cars are fairly good in terms of their damage.
And I suppose those GT3 cars are just a little bit bigger, a little bit angrier, and it's costing them a little bit of... And to be fair to the GT3 class as well, it's important to note that they have had those incidents. Although another incident almost for Cantera, who taps the GT4 and gets through in the end, but I don't think there'll be too much damage in that case. But of course, they've had a few more incidents, as I can tell you J-Cam is now out of the race. They've just had a few more incidents that involve a few more cars, like those pile-ups and things. And it appears that the likes of Cantera, Pecorini, are just going to try and weather out the storm of their damage.
They are. They've got to survive until their first pit stop when they can come in, they can take that fast repair on, they can maybe even hope that the natural repairs aren't too long. Cantera taking a very adventurous line over the exit curve, apex curve I should say, of turn 5. Whitner really seems to be struggling with turn 6, doesn't have the turn in that the Mercedes does, but has superb exit speed. That Porsche with its rear engine config. Oh, that's going to be in the wall for Cantera. How did he not hit the wall there? Oh, but there is GT4 in the wall in the background there. That's James Keir. I think he's touched the wall. That's going to allow Dillon to get past. Mistake from the McLaren driver. Even calling it a Mercedes. There's just far too many Mercedes in this league. Oh, and again, Keir wide. He's picked up damage from that excursion into the wall.
Maybe a little bit. The car looks visually quite okay, so I'm sure he'll continue on as long as he can, as we see Cantera once again trying to hound Whitner a little bit. Pecorini is in for a pit stop, perhaps a little bit early. He's at pit exit now, and he has taken a fast repair, I can tell you that much. That BMW looking in much finer shape indeed. At 7th now, pitted out of 4th position.
Log in
And
as
Josh
well.
Plug also in. So perhaps the fuel isn't going as long as we expected it to, and it will be a 2-stop now, I'm almost certain.
I think that's a little bit of strategy from Josh Clogg as well. He was stuck behind Bergstrom, about 8-10 separating them. They were matched on race pace at the end of the stint. Do you think that's Clogg rolling the dice, sort of gambling on a 2-stop, trying to get the undercut? Very interesting strategy. It might work out for him, but you have to say, tends to be these GT3 cars are better on low fuel. They don't tend to really do well when you add the fuel load in, especially with worn tyres. That's Thompson getting out of the way of a GT3. That is a lap position. Oh, and that's in the wall for both of them.
And that is a big damage for the race leader in GT4. He had a 14-second gap. He was absolutely cruising. And now Adam Thompson, the car, looks absolutely battered and destroyed. He's going to take pit service immediately. Adam Thompson, I would imagine. In fact, no, he's gone past the pit lane, hasn't he? He's going to continue. He's Adam Thompson. And he's moving to let the GT3 through. I thought he was coming into the pits, but Adam Thompson now is going to start losing a great deal of time to the people behind him. Dillon and Keir are suddenly going to have a real opportunity at this race. Back in round 1, if you can remember 4 weeks ago in Barber, Adam Thompson spun out of the lead of the race. He did, and there became another crunch of carbon fibre against a wall. He did eventually recover to take the win in that particular event. And now he's just got to survive 5 minutes or so without hemorrhaging too much time to the guys behind. And if he gets to 20 minutes, that's about when these GT4s should be coming in for pit stop.
He's got to be so lucky there's the Ferrari that went into the wall as well, off at turn 6. But for Adam Thompson, he's got to be lucky. He's got to hope that it's just aero damage, that the steering is relatively okay. I can tell you that the steering of that Ferrari in the background, I think that's Robbie Shin, is certainly not okay. Riding on board with Edoardo Pecorini, he's got these 2 cars up ahead. They are for position. They have not pitted yet, or at least are not on the same pit strategy, are Whitner and Cantera. So Pecorini really needs to get past these as cleanly and as quickly as possible. Certainly easier said than done, especially when these 2 cars up ahead are squabbling. You're right, our race leader Bergstrom is in the pit, so where's he going to come out in relation to Josh Clogg, I should say. That is going to be the real question for the race lead. Oh,
there's a very, very damaged Porsche in the background. He's managing to reverse out of the wall, a little bit red-faced, I'd imagine, and we'll get a replay of that for you. And it's one of those races, isn't it, that is just going wrong for just about everyone on this grid at the moment, and you have to feel sorry for them. It's going to be a race staying out of trouble. He's just locked up a little bit. And I do wonder if that's one of those things caused by what I mentioned earlier in the sort of V-shape of the track, and it's just a difficult track to get turning here, and I think the Porsche of Turner is learning that as well, and it just looks a little bit bouncing up and down. The car just doesn't look in the greatest of shapes after that crash, and absolutely everyone being caught out at some stage today, and it appears that Bergstrom is the only one who really hasn't had a major issue that is, as Seep has inherited the lead of the race. Slow old guy racing, and he's got some GT4 traffic navigating. It's not going to the easiest. Darling is into the pits as well, and it appears that that's going to unleash Whitner, isn't it? Nope, he's going to the pits as well. So Pecorini going to jump the both of them, get up to 5th position. He will be expecting to inherit 4th, and if Pecorini can just get onto a podium, I think that would really help his cause. Here's a battle in GT4 regardless. It's Dillon and Kia, and there's a furious Mercedes in the background trying to get out of the way and trying to also not get involved in the battle too much. The McLaren is going to try and go around the outside on the Porsche. He's going to dive to the inside, is Dillon. And it's Kia, sorry. Dolling's going to be the one trying to defend the inside. He hits Kia does well to avoid him and goes through into the fountain. And Dillon absolutely smashed the wall there and has had to give up 2nd position. So now both of these trying to give chase to Adam Thompson, though with an 18-second lead, I don't think they're going to be giving chase too successfully with about 25 minutes to go.
Yeah, they're really not helping their cause at the moment, squabbling over 2nd place. You think that, especially with Thompson with that damage, if they just work together a little bit more. Is that Kia having a poor exit out of turn 6? Yes, it is. So Dillon, after hitting the wall earlier on in the lap, takes 2nd place once again. The McLaren down to 3rd. But they both now have made contact with the wall at least at some point or other during their first stint. But somehow these cars are driving relatively straight. And I think Dillon's got away fairly scot-free after that contact on the exit of turn 1. Some miraculous driving ability, you have to say, because that was so hard. And these cars are fairly fragile, especially the Porsche. Now, if you're sort of an iRacing aficionado, you know that the GT4 should have the new damage model, but because we're also in the session with the GT3 cars, they have the old damage model applied, and that makes them slightly tougher than slightly weaker than say a normal old damage model car. Again, Dillon very wide into turn 1. Thought he was going to do a repeat of 1 lap ago. Thompson in the pits, as well as Miko Leszek. He's also in the pits. Thompson already on pit exit, just goes to show his superb lead that he had. But this race, I think, is just starting to spice up, Tom. You know, we've seen action, we've seen many incidents, but I think we're just going to end up seeing a really good race for the front. Is that probably Shin back in the pits? I think he was the Ferrari having all of those issues. Shin in the pits, and I think that'll probably be the last time we're going to see him out on track today.
And his engine, or his bonnet had popped off. Here's another battle, and in fact, race leader is going to go through the middle of the battling GT4 cars. It's the McLaren and the Porsche, and the McLaren down the inside, and Dillon has to try and stave it out on the outside. We're just trying to see what's going on there, and I think the McLaren is just about through. They're still side by side, though. You can see in the background, it's going to be down into the hairpin that they go. As we see Josh Clark trying to get through, and all they make contact, and it's a little bit weak from the two of them, and it was just understeer, and fortunately a little bit of a misjudgment. I actually think Dillon was trying to drive the pits and just caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Josh Clark is in 2nd position, looking to chase after Bergstrom. Of course, 2nd in the championship, and the undercut hasn't particularly worked with Josh Clark, as he's actually lost time. 3.5 seconds the gap now. and he's presumably on older tyres as well, though his car will be getting lighter and lighter as this goes on, and much lighter than Bergstrom, both of them having to pit again. We would assume, as we said, 18 minutes roughly on a fuel tank. As we see C in third position, driving very, very well at the moment. 35 seconds behind the lead Gaggle, which he's got a nice buffer of about 20 to Beccarini behind. So it would be unheard of for Beccarini to even come home and win this race if there's issues ahead of him.
Beccarini's got to be careful. There was a GT4 exiting the pits, really disturbs your entrance into turn one. The pit exit is so different to many other tracks there. It feeds you right onto the racing line. But James Kia is currently in the lead, although he is yet to pit, and I think he will dart into the pit lane. Yes, he does. So James Kia has managed to make it 22 minutes, I should say, on a tank of fuel. And that's going to be really crucial, because he could just, if he gets lapped and in the right spot, do it on one more stop. While I think Thompson and Dillon are going to have to take another 2 stops to be at least safe. So is Kia playing the strategic long game here, rather than the the more standard pit strategy of a 2-stop. So Kia, I think, is definitely one to watch for in this race. Thompson retakes the GT4 race lead. Cantera now setting some purple sectors in the mid-sector. But, I mean, Bergstrom, he was so lucky with that traffic, managed to clear the GT4s, and Hog in second just had no ability to do so, got stuck behind them at the hairpin, had to sort of wait for them to have their own squabble on the pit exit. We saw the contact that was made, and Clog lost out 3 seconds from that. Flashing the lights there from one of the GT3 cars. Thompson very obligingly gets out of the way. Thompson, I mean, he's got such a gap, 17 seconds, he could stop, have a cup of tea and contemplate the race and still come out ahead of Turner. So Thompson's, I mean, he's in such a good position. When you've got, a lead like that, you can really be so safe with traffic, and it just makes your life so much easier.
WF8 Racing says, why are there only 8 cars on track? There isn't. There are 2 classes in this race, GT3 and GT4. To my knowledge, both classes have got 8, GT3 with 9 drivers. So there's actually a little bit more than that, about double. It's a nice even spread between the 2 classes as well. It has to be said that we only can show 1 class at a time, it appears. So you just see the class of the car that you're following. So right now we're with Jaden Darling, and it's in the GT3 class. So you'll see the 9 GT3 cars. So only the 8, as Whitner and Ham have both retired from the race, and we don't expect to see Shig back out on circuit. And really has been an attritional affair so far, as we get to 20 minutes to go now. And I have to say, on the note of the fuel strategy in GT4, it wouldn't be unheard of for Kia to go 23 minutes here. We're expecting a 20-minute fuel tank. That, from what I can understand, is a rough estimate there. So perhaps there is an opportunity for him to just save a little bit of fuel. I'm not too sure how much fuel 3 minutes constitutes, but he's definitely not out of it here. He has, unfortunately, though, come out rather close to Dolling and in traffic, though maybe down the straights, even though there's not a great deal of switch. He'll save a bit of fuel there as well. We look at a man who's having a rather quiet race, and that is Mikko Ajic in the McLaren. And really just staying out of trouble here. 4th position. Just banking some good points. Adam Thompson, of course, leading the way. And Thompson, actually, having won race 1, is only probably out of these standings in terms of the top 3. Because he didn't race last week, he has shown some incredible pace in the 2 rounds he's been at this season. This one, and of course, Barber. He has repaired that car in the pit stop, the number 244 Aston Martin, and he's currently cruising to a victory here.
gap now 30 seconds between himself and Dillon. So I think even if Keir manages to do something quite extraordinary on the fuel strategy, it's not going to make much of a difference. Thompson has a pit stop in hand. Keir gets past Dillon for second place. That battle raging between the McLaren and the Porsche for second place, I should say. See the BMW very close to the exit of turn 8. That's Pecorini. He's in fourth at the moment. Pecorini looking good for a podium, you'd have to say. Those 15 seconds off Seep in third, but Pecorini been so consistent after being caught up with that Ferrari incident earlier on in the race. Nothing he could have done. I think he's in a good spot. But Adam Thompson, superb driving. Did some driving actually with him earlier on in the week for another race on slow motion broadcasting around Donington in the GT4s. He is absolutely rapid in these GT4 cars. He's got such a fundamental understanding of how to go quick, and he's a force to be reckoned with. As long as he turns up to the events, I think he's going to be such a championship contender. Pecorini as well. It's been a really good recovery drive from him, you'd have to say. You know, didn't have the qualifying he wanted, had that confusion at the start of the race. But even so, fourth place, good points. 13 seconds now he is off Seep. Last lap, he was 1.5 seconds quicker than Seep in third place. So don't count out Pecorini for getting a podium here.
I have to say that I'm actually going to disagree with you on that regard, because Pecorini started sixth as the man who clearly has probably the best pace in the field. I think he would have been expecting himself to be challenging for that win if it weren't for those incidents. If you take the incidents into account, then I'd say still he'd be happy with third. I'm not too sure he'll be the most chuffed man in the world if he finishes fourth, regardless of how to the regular viewer it looks like a pretty good drive. Purple in sector 1 and sector 2, he has got so much pace here, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if he's going to nick a podium here at some stage in this race. The question is though, is there going to be a miracle that happens that allows him to win this race? And even that wouldn't be too out of the question. Imagine Josh Klog and Bergstrom come together and both have to pit for damage repairs, leaving Pecorini fighting for the win.
I think Pecorini's done a really, really good job. I mean, the field spread around here is going to be so dramatic, especially when you start behind GT4 cars. I think as soon as that happened, there was no chance of him taking the win unless anything adventurous happens in the top two. Pecorini there almost touching the wall though. He's really driving that car to the absolute limits, makes a little bit of contact at the apex of turn 8, a little bit of netcode I do believe, but I mean Pecorini not leaving any margins on the table, but he's got this Porsche up ahead. Grant Turner in the GT4 entitled to take his racing line, but not getting out of the way, which Pecorini would have really liked, almost contact between the two cars. Pecorini, a little bit of a mistake actually for the BMW driver on the entrance to the hairpin. That'll cost him time. Pecorini now sets the fastest lap of the race. Turner immediately on the radio, I think probably have some form of disagreement with Pecorini and Pecorini's lapping of Turner. Of course, you haven't seen the customary flash of the lights, which you'll see. That's a normal way of the drivers showing their displeasure. Turner though, I mean, I think we're seeing now the drivers starting just to sort of lower their percentage, and what I mean by that is they're going a little bit slower, they're leaving a little bit more margins on the table. We're not seeing so many drivers sort of meander off into the wall. Everybody's driving well within the limits of the car. It feels like everybody's settled down and we're having more of a normal race, because that was quite a frenetic start to the Long Beach race.
I think that is a huge thing here as well. The fact that we had to restart the server and set some things up, and it cost us a little bit of time, and all the special circumstances in qualifying. Everyone was probably just a little bit confused. That being said, there's a mistake here from the Porsche of Neville, and it's actually he's going to let some laps of traffic through. These two are still battling, aren't they? Dillon and Keir. That is actually a battle for position there. Keir still having the measure of Porsche. But yes, obviously it's been exceptional circumstances here. The one lap qualifying just probably frustrating and confusing a little bit. That could really have an effect. Here we go then. Dillon down the inside. It's going to be a brave dive into the left-hander. and he might just about have this here. I think Keir has had to back off a little bit there and took in back behind, so Dillon is back through and really showing that despite this being a street circuit, he can still pass just as easily. Keir now going to have to relax for a moment and just breathe and get back once more. These two have been nip and tuck all race long, and it appears that it's going to be continuing into the last 14 minutes of this contest. Here he goes then. Keir once again is just going to try and tuck in as they head through the hairpin for the 24th time now, and Keir should have a deal of slipstream here to try and make a challenge down into turn 1. It's 4/10 of a second that gap, and he's gaining and gaining little by little. Turn 1 might be a little bit of a difficult challenge. Bergstrom is in for his second and presumably final stop of the race, and he's back out again now. Clock is going to inherit the lead of the race, and that would suggest to me now that they absolutely will not be able to get to the end of this race on a one stop, no matter what miracles they could be pulling off.
Yeah, really not too fussed about letting Dillon pass. I still wonder if Keir is trying to do the fuel saving strategy. Would be great to ride on board with the British driver and see if he is starting to lift in coast. No clutches, of course, in these cars. Yeah, so he's fuel saving.
Yes, that's a lift and ghost right there, if I've ever seen one.
So Keir really trying to maximise the fuel mileage. I think Keir is trying to do it, and I think he possibly could. And I think Dillon is sort of being forced at the moment to run a race that maybe he wasn't expecting. And he's thinking, well, you know, I'll get ahead of Keir. Well, I'm ahead of Keir now, but actually Dillon needs to be behind Keir to stop him from fuel saving, stop him gaining from the slipstream. Really tactical race going on right now.
3 minutes of fuel is a great deal. I don't know what his personal fuel mileage is like. He might be doing a little bit better than others. That being said, he's not really playing a total fuel game here, as he's going to switch to the outside and try and make a move, and there's only a little bit of room there. But here comes Keir. Despite his fuel saving, he's going to try and make a move around the outside and just brake a little bit too early compared to Dillon, and stay behind. So if he is fuel saving as we expect him to, that is probably just about where he wants to be at this stage.
I'm quite surprised that he ended up going for the move on Dillon. I think Dillon maybe sort of working out, figuring out at this point that his game plan is to fuel save and saying, no, you go through. They're having this really gentlemanly exchange on the entrance to turn 1. No, you go ahead. No, you go ahead. I think that's what's transpiring at the moment. Our race leader gets by Keir. Can he get past Dillon? Yes, he does, easily on the exit of turn 8. I think Keir, I mean, the great thing about this battle at the moment, at least for the two involved, is that Turner, he's not really a contender in this race. He's 40 seconds off the back of his pair, and again, Thompson 40 seconds ahead, so it really is a battle between Dillon and Keir, so they can really do whatever they fancy. Surrounding strategy, it's not really going to impact them. The worst they're going to finish is in third. Is Dillon going to come into the pits? Now, he thought the body language of the car suggested that he was about to tuck into the pits. There's Mercedes almost hitting the wall on the exit through the final hairpin. I think Keir is playing the long game here, and Pecorini now, he's so rapid at the moment. He's already pitted, he's already taken his final stop. Seep still out there. He's on a lower fuel, is Seep, but Seep just not being able to produce the lap times. Pecorini, I think by the time the pit stops all transpire, Tom, he's going to be in third.
That would be absolutely incredible from Pecorini. 46 seconds down at the moment, almost to the dot. But I don't think that's going to deter him here. He can, at the pace he's driving, quite easily get ahead. Here is the pit stop length. Bergstrom went 12 laps on his first stint, 11 on the second. Clock 10 and 14, 14 and 11 for Seep. Pecorini 9 and 14. So he did a longer stint the second time round, did Pecorini, and has probably got only about a few laps left now. Maybe to the tune of 8 or so, if I had to guess, as we see. That's Seep trying to get through some GT traffic to in fact, this won't help him, will it? Absolutely won't help him as he tries to get past the battling Keir, and Dillon is really going. He's really going to have a bit of a struggle here, because this is holding him up, as I think I saw a flash of the light there as well. And almost certainly, oh, he's really squeezed against the wall as well, is Seep, and that's probably lost him already about a second to Pecorini at least. In fact, it's lost him 2 seconds to Pecorini. Oh, there's a spin! And oh, there's a damage as well! And there's a huge crash! And that's Keir!
And that was not what Keir wanted. That's not what his strategy was banking on. What's that 333 car doing? What was Cantera thinking? To be honest, let's watch the replay and just figure out what has gone on. So Cantera spins, makes contact with both of them, and then has a second bite at Keir's rear end. Cantera, was he holding his brakes? Was it a lack of, you know, we see this in other leagues with the GT3 cars, is that, you know, the advice is when you spin, hold the brakes. But these cars have ABS, they're designed to not lock up the brakes. And was Cantera on the brakes but couldn't get the car stopped? Or was he a little bit lackadaisical with his inputs to sort of keep the car away from other cars? I'm not quite sure, but that has absolutely ruined James's race. Dillon will be laughing home scot-free. That's second place for him, done and dusted. I mean, look at the gap that he's got now to Keir in third. I think Dillon is going to come into the pits. No, he's not. That's the second time that I thought he's going to be into the pits, and then he's not.
And one thing I should mention, so excuse me, trying to there, but no, I think one thing to mention there is that regardless of the ABS, the GT3 cars that slam on the brakes should be locking up regardless. So I don't think that's a particular concern. I think what happened there was he's just got to Cantera has had a little bit of a spin, and the weight transfer has caught him out. He's tried to save the car, but then gone too far the other way, and it's just forced him into the man who we see in the pits now, James Keir, sir, who might just about perhaps lose fourth here, or lose third and gain fourth. We'll have to see. Thompson's into the pits as well, the race leader, taking his second pit stop of the day.
Thompson will be happy, well, not happy, but he'll be pleased to hear that Keir had that incident, because Keir was his only real threat to losing the lead. Keir with that sort of trying to do it on a one-stop strategy. Thompson, though, he's got such a gap, 44 seconds. I think he's going to even come out before Dillon is even thinking about coming into the pits. Mika Lovchek is now up into fourth place, so Keir has lost that position. So Mika Lovchek, great form from him. He's apparently lost 3 positions according to our class, to our timing stands, but you know, he struggled in qualifying, didn't get the lap in that he would have wanted, but superb race performance from him. And our lead McLaren driver after James Keir's incident with the 333 Mercedes, Pecorini, now coming out of the final hairpin, sweet as anything, got such pace in that BMW car. Seep in the pits, he's actually on the pit exit, going to be tight between the two drivers. This is for our final podium position. Seep is ahead of Pecorini. Pecorini got it all to do, so I stand corrected, Tom. Pecorini did not come out ahead.
No, he has, because Seep has made a mistake on pit exit, and Pecorini sails on through into third position, and that is a huge recovery for Eduardo Pecorini. And I think the tyres were just a little bit cold, the brakes were a little bit cold, and Pecorini didn't even have to do any of the dirty work, and that was quite huge indeed. He's got through into third position. He chased down a 13-second gap, made the undercut, and his blistering pace, despite not having the most ideal of conditions in his earliest stop, has seen him through into third position. And surely now, with a 3-second gap, he's going to go on to convert this into a permanent third position with 5 minutes to go in the race.
He's had such incredible pace when he's been in free air. Do you feel a little bit sorry for Seep? Feel like a little bit of curse of the commentator. He could have maybe hung on to the position if Seep was ahead and could use his defensive skills. But yeah, once Pecorini's ahead, I think that position is all but gone for Seep. Unless Pecorini makes another mistake or gets involved in another incident. We've seen how easy it is to do around the Long Beach circuit. A little bit of traffic up ahead for Pecorini. while all that's been going on, Bergstrom and Clog, they've just been getting on with it. I mean, the gap is now almost a minute between Pecorini and Bergstrom, but Bergstrom's just unchallenged, really. Clog struggling, I think, getting a little bit more enough of this traffic. The gap is now 7.2 seconds. I mean, these drivers at one point were separated by 7/10 of a second before the first pit stop, and Bergstrom just running away with this race at the moment. He rode the ball with him through turn one. No dramas there on the exit. We've seen maybe a car struggle, but I mean, Bergstrom just driving well within his limits at the moment. He's got 4 minutes to go. I think this race is all but his.
Absolutely, but careful saying with 4 minutes to go. Probably about, well, last lap was 1:18. He's looking at 2 or 3 more laps, isn't he, at the line? Not easy on a street circuit. I did the GT3 race, not on iRacing, but at Adelaide, and I was in third, heading into the final 2 laps of the race in a McLaren GT3. Tapped the inside wall at one of the fast corners, and it blew my engine up. So, just to illustrate the point that it's never over till it's over. Adam Thompson will be feeling like he can have a stroll here towards the end of the race. You wouldn't think about it, seeing how he's attacked that curb, but 44 seconds worth of a gap. He could actually pit for damage here and probably still be okay with 3 minutes to go now in the race. He has been driving like there's nobody else on the circuit today, Adam Thompson. And I appreciate that is a phrase that can be said for someone who's been crashing into everyone. But it's a good thing in Adam Thompson's case, because he hasn't seen anyone. Probably wondering where everyone's got to.
Yeah, the only drivers he's really seen are the GT3s that have been lapping him, helped of course by Dillon and Kia's, I mean, gargantuan of battle earlier on, but Thompson just in a league of his own pace-wise. Cantera coming around the hairpin, trying to get past our GT4 leader Bergstrom with the fastest lap of the race last time by 17.57. That's 4/10 I should say, quicker than Eduardo Pecorini, who has the second fastest lap times. Bergstrom just finding more and more pace out there at the moment. I think he's going to have 2 laps at the line, just a little bit too quick to get that 1 lap to go. So I think he's going to have to do 2 more tours of Long Beach. I don't think he'll mind too much. Been the king of Long Beach has Bergstrom so far. I think he'll enjoy them more than anything. Yep, no white flag showing there. So Bergstrom 2 laps to go in his race. GT18.6. I wonder if he was slowing down a little bit there just to see if he could sort of catch the white flag. Not unheard of in motorsports. You see it a lot in Formula E when it's really fuel dominated, but Bergstrom clearly happy to do an extra couple of laps. Clock so much curb on the inside there. He's still really pushing. He has not given up on first place. At least his driving style doesn't suggest that.
And he's faster as well, a little bit. Well, that being said, actually Bergstrom was just a little bit faster. I was reading that graphic wrong, but Clog not really at the races in the latter stages of this race, and it's kind of cost him a good point haul on Pecorini as well, who's managed to recover to 3rd position. I think just about Pecorini will be pleased with that one, as we see the man himself, the championship leader, was looking to make it a hat-trick of victories, but unfortunately force majeure got in the way, I suppose.
That's a good saying there. I quite like that one. I'm going to nick that one for my own commentary, I think. Force majeure. I mean, Pecorini. Oh, he's in. Oh, Pecorini. That's the save of the day, I do believe. Pecorini not had the race that you would have expected from the championship leader.
No, but he's been a good recovery drive anyway, and I hope I've used that phrase wrong, not accidental partridge myself, and I hope I've used that phrase right as well. But anyway, as we see, Bergstrom has started the final lap of the race, and white flag is flying, and he is going to surely now win this race. And I appreciate I may be accused of talking him out of this one, but we'll try and not hopefully keep it together for the last couple of corners here. 8-second gap to Clog behind, who actually finished the previous race in the pit lane, Josh Clog, and I don't think he actually got, he must have got classified to be where he is in the championship, but the game had some issues, I remember, where he was struggling to be classified. But anyway, it has been a pretty dominant drive from Bergstrom, and he's going to round the final corner here at Long Beach. And, well, he wasn't expecting to win today, but exceptional circumstances has given him the pace that he needed, the opportunity that he needed, and it's going to be a first win of the season for Bergstrom, and it's going to be a flash of the lights as well. And Clog is going to come home in second position, almost certainly now. Fiercely forward, finishes in that second position. Eduardo Pecorini, although perhaps he's just about halfway around the lap. He hasn't quite finished just yet, but we'll see Adam Thompson for the moment in the Aston Martin. 52 seconds, that gap in the end. He's been extending the gap, even though he really didn't need to. And don't hit the wall now, Adam. That would be a rather dramatic turn in events as he heads down to Sector 3 now. Adam Thompson has actually won the race already because Dillon has already finished behind him. So even if he was to crash now in his second place, already taken the checkered flag, so it wouldn't matter. But he's going to take the final corner regardless, even if it's a little bit arbitrary at this stage. Adam Thompson is back in fine fashion after missing a round. He's going to make it 2 wins from the 2 races that he has done this season, and he's almost he's set a purple Sector 3 as well, a final lap even, I should say. And that is about done for another week of XTC, as I'll give you the honours of doing the standings.
So Bergstrom is your race winner, Josh Clog in second, and Pecorini rounds out your GT3 podium. Chad C missing out after that mistake at turn 1. He's in 4th place with Cantera 5th and Jaden Darling in 6th place. Then we have Thompson, your winner in GT4 with Dillon 2nd, Grant Turner 3rd, with Miko Leszczek in 4th place. Kier 5th, disappointing for him. Had the strategy on his side, but did not have the luck. Rob Neville in 6th. And then we have our retirements. Eric Winter retired on lap 12, along with Robbie Shin. Jimmy Howard retired on lap 9. Jake Ham on lap 7. And Kevin Irwin on lap 6. And that is your Cross Touring Cup Season 2, Round 3. Or finishing order, I should say, Tom. What a crazy race that was. I mean, it had it all. It had really good racing, and it had a little bit of drama and jeopardy added in as well. Certainly one to rewatch.
Definitely one to rewatch. And actually, I think we'll get the interviews in straight away, as we've got. We'll interview Adam first, even though he's been in the channel for the lesser time. Adam, second race of the season for you and second victory. You must be feeling pretty sweet after that one.
Well, let me tell you what, Tom. I am. There was a bit of a mix-up there at the beginning of the race, but we got through it, and my main goal there at the beginning was just try to get through all of that clean. I knew there were probably going to be some incidents. We're at Long Beach. So once I did that, I was able to settle in and start finding a groove, find a rhythm. And, it really, really did help. I missed racing with Rob Schwenkler, but he had a family emergency, so he wasn't able to race tonight. But it's definitely going to help me get on par with him with points, which is a really good thing.
And, I'm sure that the fact that Schwenkler wasn't here must have really sweetened this a little bit for you. But I'm sure you must be thinking now that this is going to be pretty enthralling championship battle once you're both back into the races.
Well, let me tell you, in the GT4 session, or the GT4 section, it is going to be an absolute knockout, drag-out battle. Rob and I trade fastest laps on a lot of tracks. He's quicker at a few tracks, so yeah, it's going to be a whole lot of fun here coming up for the rest of the season.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Adam, and we hope to speak to you after a equally as successful race in 2 weeks' time.
Well, thanks, guys. And one second before you send me back, Sebastian, Tom, Ian, I always have to give a shout-out to you guys. Thank you so much for putting this on. I know we started a little bit late, but thank you guys for sticking around and getting that done. I know UK time, it's pretty early over there, but yeah, great job, and thank you so much. And also, big shout-out, I think my future father-in-law and my future mother-in-law may be watching this, so shout out to them as well.
Oh, well, lovely. I'm sure they are welcoming you into the family with a race win. But thank you very much, Adam.
Thanks, guys.
I've just cut him off there. That's a way to get myself sacked. But we've got Alec Bergstrom next. And Alec, well, it has to be said, I don't think we expected you to have that much pace there, and yet you managed to win in such a dominant fashion. I mean, that must be feeling pretty good.
Oh, it feels great. Yeah, I mean, I really felt like I was gonna have a challenge with Josh. I know he really pressed me at the start. That was really going through my head. He definitely put the pressure on, and I was up for the challenge. I was a little bummed that Eduardo wasn't able to get qualifying in, because I knew he would be right there. I'd probably be the one behind him. So that would have been a really good battle if he had a good qualifying.
And how was trying to adjust to the sort of different the different circumstances that we've had today, as of course the exceptional circumstances with the server having to be restarted? Was that difficult to adjust to, especially with the one lap qualifying?
Yeah, it was definitely a little difficult. I really noticed that one lap qualifying. I took a little bit of pace off just to ensure that I was going to get a clean lap in. I kind of put about 95% into it, but that's why I was a little bit. So I was surprised to see myself on pole. I thought for sure people would dip into the mid 117s, but it was enough.
And well, thank you very much for joining us on the stream. Very well done on the victory. Hope to speak to you again soon.
Yeah, thank you guys.
That was Alec Bergstrom. And Sebastian, we'll round out the stream rather quickly here. But another great week of XTC racing. The results flashing up on your screen now for the viewers. Next time out is Interlagos. And what do you think we'll be expecting there?
I think more of the same, probably a little bit less incident-packed, more strategic, I do believe. I mean, it's such a classic racetrack, isn't it, Interlagos? It's got such good overtaking opportunities. It's got some fairly unconventional overtaking opportunities as well. If you're feeling slightly adventurous, it's going to be one to watch. And certainly, if anything is like Long Beach is proven, it's going to be even better, I think, in 2 weeks' time.
And well, I think that just about does it from us here from Long Beach. Well, not actually from Long Beach, from the virtual Long Beach. And I have been Tom Dillon. He's been Sebastian Boa Williams, and on production has been Ian N. Fisher. Once again, we'd like to thank you all very much for watching, and we'll see you all later. Good night.